Okay, well, here we are in September, and instead of doing a bike walk around, I thought I would look at one of the old cars. And there she is. She's just come back from the MOT, which was okay, apart from an advisory on one of the tyres, which is a little bit perished on the inside. Not surprising really, because it only did 16 miles last year, so I suppose I can't complain. Anyway, there she is. She won't look as good as this now for another year. She's 31 years old now, although she was registered in 1990. She was constructed in 1989. It's a Subaru Justy, and the interesting thing is that it's a four-wheel drive, selectable four-wheel drive, 1200 cc's, and when she was built, that was the time they were considering either lean burn engines or catalytic converters, and catalytic converters won. So this has got a lean burn carbureted engine, and works very well. Have a quick look at the engine. This has been with us since new. Bought it for my late wife. One of the reasons I keep it really is just for that reason. The red paint is going home a bit after 31 years. And there's the engine unit, and as you can see from the plugs, it's a triple, and it's a long stroke triple, which makes it very torquey, which is of course ideal for four-wheel drive. And it actually works extremely well in four-wheel drive, particularly on snow, because it's very light. I've used it, well, when we first bought it, I needed to be able to get to sites sometimes when there was snow on the ground, if there were problems. And so instead of buying the usual sort of car, we bought this one because it had the four-wheel drive facility, and it really does work well. It's a pneumatic system with a central clutch, so you can, most of the time it's on two-wheel drive, makes it pretty economical, and the rest of the time press a button on the gear lever, which I'll have a look at. As you can see, the inside's weathered very well really after 30 years. There's a little red button on top of the gear lever. You press that button, and the vacuum from the engine actuates a pneumatic clutch, and a little light comes on the dashboard, tells you you're in four-wheel drive. The only thing you have to remember is not to engage or disengage at high speed, because then you'll wreck it, which people have done, in spite of the warnings to the contrary. On the door there's a piece of information that everyone should read, which warns you about engaging or disengaging the four-wheel drive when it's under load or at speed. Apart from that, it's pretty standard. I'm back in '89. No such thing as central locking, and also no electric windows then, well, not for basic vehicles, and no power steering. This is as light as a feather. I was amazed this morning when I took it to the MOT how nippy it was without the cat, because obviously catalytic converters throttle the exhaust, and this is free breathing, and it goes really well. I was really quite surprised. I opened it up a bit to give it an Italian tune-up because it hadn't run for a long time, and she responded really well. There's a little worry on the rear wing because there's a burst bubble just there, and that will need to be dealt with in the next year or so. Similarly down there's signs of a crack which will need dealing with. Usually the corrosion is on the driver's side. I've noticed over the years that you tend to get more spray from other vehicles when you're driving. You tend to get more corrosion on the offside. But yeah, I did a bit of rust work by the front mud flap. You can see that little black. That was always black underneath, incidentally. I just raised it up where I did a repair. There's been a few rust repairs over the years, but only minor, no chassis rust, because I look after things generally. And where I used to live, I had a pit, so all the vehicles were regularly checked underneath and repainted as required. And this one's still really good underneath, and under the wings it's all painted. There's no rust, and she runs really nicely. One or two small oil leaks in the 30 years, but I guess the main problem is just minor rust here and there, and that's about it really. Oh, and the paint. Red paint tends to go off, and this is no exception. You can see that the bonnet in particular and that near side wing is beginning to go. Whether I'll be bothered to do anything about it remains to be seen. Anyway, we'll put the hood down, and you can see that the red paint's pretty grim on there. I do try and keep it polished fairly regularly, but heat and age has had an effect, and at some point I'll have to decide what I'm going to do. Of course, a lot of people like patina, so I suppose you could argue that it could stay as it is with a little bit of patina on it. One or two little scratches and scrapes from my late wife's activities, but generally speaking it's done extremely well. She used to go all over the country on in this thing with her chums, and it's really quite well made, really, considering all. I mean, mud flaps come as standard on this one, and compared to a lot of 30-year-old Japanese cars, it's fairly rust free, so got no complaints. It's done very well. It's in the 80s now. I think it's done about 80,000, and other than needing a new tyre for next year's MOT, I shan't be touching it. So it'll sit in the garage over the winter period, and probably only be used for shopping and small trips. So there you go. 189 Subaru Justy, selectable 4-wheel drive, 1.2 GL. Still going, because as I've said in my bike walk-arounds, I'm not one for new vehicles. I quite enjoy pottering around in the old ones. I don't know why. I just do. Okay, we'll leave it at that.